Hello everyone and welcome back to our YouTube channel. I hope you are doing well. So in this video we will learn about what is approval process in Salesforce and how it is work. Now before moving to our topic, let me tell you one simple example. For example, as an employee you apply for the leave. Now what will happen in the first stage, your manager will approve or reject your leave. And if the manager approve your leave, then that approval will send to the HR department. Then your HR will be approve or reject your leave. So like this, in the approval process we can define the stages, and according to those stages the approval process will work. So in this video I will be explain what is the approval process in Salesforce. Then we will take a scenario. In that scenario I will be explain 3 stages approval process, and then using that scenario we will create the approval process, and while creating the approval process we will have the auto approval. Then we have the conditions. That means according to the conditions the approval get approved or reject. Then we will have delegated approver and the approval actions, and there are certain things which we need to create the approval process. So for that, watch this video till the end and don't miss any step. And if you are new to our channel, hit the subscribe button and press the bell icon, so whenever we post any new video you will get an update. Now before moving ahead, here is very big announcement for the Salesforce geekers. We are going to conduct Salesforce Agentforce live webinar on the 17th of September. So in this live webinar, we are going to learn about introduction to the Salesforce Agentforce. Then I will be explain the features of Agentforce. Then we will understand what are the different types of agent. Then what are the building blocks to create the Agentforce. After that, I will be explain how we can activate the Salesforce agent. And then also I will be explain how we can create the service agent and deploy it. So don't miss this opportunity to understand the Salesforce Agentforce. For that, register now and be ready to take your skills to the next level. The register link of this live webinar I will be provided in the description box. So check the description box and register now. Now moving towards our topic. Now first we need to understand what is approval process. So basically an approval process is used to automate a task or automate a procedure of approval for approving or denying request raised by the executive or the user. So to understand the multiple stages approval, we will see an use case, and using that use case I will explain how we can create approval process in Salesforce. Now first let's understand what is approval process in Salesforce. An approval process in Salesforce is an automated workflow that routes records for approval based on predefined criteria. That means when we create the approval process or for the approval process, we need some criteria, so that based on that criteria the approval process works. So for example, you have bill worth of 50,000 rupees. Now for the company this amount is big, and for the approval process if the amount is less than 50,000, then manager can approve or reject the request. But if the amount is 50,000 or more than 50,000, then with the manager HR approval also required. For that, using this criteria we can manage the stages. After that, it helps enforce business rule by requiring the one or more users like managers to review and approve or reject the records before they proceed. This is also same thing that I explained. That means the approval process helps to enforce the business rule, and there will be the stages like manager, HR and CEO. After reviewing the request, they can approve or reject the record. Now let's better understand using a scenario or using a use case. So here is the use case for the student scholarship. So basically I have created one custom currency field on the student object named as a scholarship. Let me show you. For that, let's jump to the Salesforce org. In the app launcher, here I am searching for the Institute CRM, which is the custom app that I created. And in that I have created the student object. As I open the object and then click on new button to create the new record, select the record type. As I scroll down, here you can see, here is one scholarship field with currency data type. Now again move to the use case. Now here we are going to create approval process for the 2 stages. The first one is the reception and another one is the manager. Now let's understand, if the student scholarship will be the less than 20,000, then it should be automatically get approved. That means that amount is very less, and for that amount the approval request should be not get sent to the reception or the manager. Now what if the scholarship will be the more than 20,000, then it should be sent to the reception approval. And after that, if the scholarship more than 40,000, then the approval request also should send to the manager level also. That means below 20,000 it will be automatically approved. Then for the more than 20,000 it should send to the reception, and if the reception faculty approve the request, then student will get scholarship, and if they reject the request, then it will deny for that student. After that, if the scholarship more than 40,000, then that request will be sent to the reception also and then manager also. So without any delay, let's jump to the org. There I will show you how we can create approval process in Salesforce. For that, let me close this one. To create the approval process, click on this gear icon, click on setup. After that, in the quick find box, search for the approval process. So here you can see, under the process automation, here we have approval process, click on it. Now first we need to provide on which object we are going to create approval process. So here we want to create on the student object. For that, if you want to select another object, then here you can see, here we have drop down, click on it, and then from here you can select the object on which you want to create approval process. So here we are going to create on student. For that, here I have selected this one. After selecting the object, here you can see, here we have one option, create new approval process. As you click on it, here you will see use jump start wizard, and after that use standard setup wizard. So in the use standard setup wizard, here we can set the approval process very stepwise manner. So here I am selecting this one. For that, click on this. Now first we need to provide the process name. So here I am providing student scholarship process. After that, as you click on this unique name, it will be automatically populate. You can provide the description, it's a good practice, and then click on next. Now here you can see specify entry criteria. Now here we need to provide criteria by which the approval process will get start. Now what will be the criteria? In our scenario, we don't want the scholarship field empty, or it should be greater than 0. So here in the field, here I am selecting scholarship field. In the operator, here I am selecting greater than, and in the value, here I am providing 0. That means after submitting the request for the approval, if the scholarship field greater than 0, then only the approval process will start, or that request will be sent to the other faculty or the other stages. Now here I am clicking on next. Now in the third step, we need to specify approver field and the record editability properties. That means here you can see next automated approver determined by, let me zoom in. So as I click on this drop down, here you can see standard user fields, which is manager, and then custom user fields. If you remember, while creating the user, this field we will get on the user form. Let me show you. For that, let me navigate to the creating user. So here I am opening the user profile. So here I am using the system administrator profile. Let me open the user, and as I click on edit button, scroll down, and while creating the user, here you will see the approver setting. Here we have manager, and here I have selected Joy logo as a manager. That means the user by I am logging in, this user's manager is Joy logo. And if I select next automated approver determined by, if I select the manager over here, after that when the first approver approve the request, but here sometimes we don't know to whom we want to send the next approval. So for that, here I am not selecting anything right now. After creating the approval process, you will be understand why we didn't select anything here. So we will select this thing later on, but right now forget this third number step. So after that, here you can see read editability properties. Here we have two options. Administrator only can edit records during the approval process. That means when the user submit the request to the approval, then that user cannot edit the record. Only administrator can edit those records. And after that, we have administrator or currently assigned approver can edit the records during the approval process. And in the second option, we also have the currently assigned approver. That means after submitting the approval request, Let's say manager is the approver, then administrator as well as the manager also can edit the record that gets submitted to the approval. So here I have selected administrator only and then click on next. Now in the first step, select the notification template. That means here we need to select email template so that after submitting the approval request, the email should be sent to the user who submitted the request. So here as I click on this lookup icon, here you will see the different templates that you created or the standard templates also. From here you can select the template that you created for after submitting the approval process that should be sent to the user who have submitted the approval request. So here I didn't created any template. For that, here I am selecting this new customer email, so that whatever the message or text have in this template, this message or text body will be sent to the user who has submitted the approval request. After that, click on next. Now in the fifth step, we need to select the fields to display on the approval page layout. Let me zoom out. That means here we need to select the fields which the approver can see on the page layout on the approval process or approval page layout. So for example, you are the user and you have submitted the approval request. Now whenever any approver open that request, after that here you can see in the selected fields, here we have student ID and the owner. After opening the approval request, currently the approver can see only these two fields, and for the approver it will be the very difficult to understand information. So for that here I am adding different fields. Admission done. Also I want to add scholarship because it's some important field. Email and student name. Let me rearrange this. The student name I want to below the student ID. After that scholarship. After that email, and after that admission done field. Now whenever the approver will open the approval request, they can see the student ID, name, scholarship, email, admission done and owner. That means these all information they can see on the approval page layout. After that, scroll down. Here you can see approval page fields. So here we have checkbox display approval history information in addition to the fields selected above. That means for example, there will be the rare case where the approver reject the approval request continuously, or there will be the something wrong. For that reason approver cannot accepting or cannot approving the request. So that all information approving or rejecting, that all information will display on the approval page fields. So to display those information, here we need to check this checkbox display approval history information in addition to the fields selected above. After that, here you can see security setting. Here we have two options. Allow approvers to access the approval page only from within the Salesforce application, and this one is recommended by the Salesforce. Why this? Because the security reason. And after that, another one we have allow approvers to access the approval page from within the Salesforce application or externally from the wireless enabled mobile device. So whatever the security setting you want to select, that's your choice. But from the Salesforce, it's recommended allow the approvers access approval page only from the Salesforce application itself, not from the wireless enabled mobile device. And then click on next. After that, here you can see here we have initial submitters. That means who can submit the approval request. So here by default, here we have student owner. That means on which object we are going to approval process, that object owners or record owners can only submit the approval request. So here I don't want to add another submitters. If you want to add, then here you can see here we have search in the submitter type. As you click on it, here you will see public groups, roles and subordinates, and then users. That means for example, here I am selecting the user, and then here you will see all the active users in your Salesforce org. Now currently here I am logged in with the Alex Joy. If I select the Joy logo and then add to the allow submitters, after that this user can also submit the approval request which records owned by me. That means even the Joy logo is not owner of student records, even that user can submit the approval request. So here let me remove this one because I want only student owner can submit the approval request. As I scroll down, now here you can see page layout setting. Here we have one checkbox which is already checked. Add the submit for approval button and approval history related list to the all student page layout. That means if you uncheck this one, then if you want to submit any record to the approval, then there you cannot see the approval button, that means submit for approval button, because from here we have unchecked this one. And if you want to add that button, then you need to navigate page layout, and there will be the button where you can drag and drop that button on the student record page. So here we have option to add that button. So here I am adding this one from here only. Then submission setting, allow submitters to recall approval request. That means if the user has submitted any approval request, that means if they want to take it back, then they can do it if you allow the submitters to recall approval request. So here I am checking this one, so that if I submit any approval request and I want to take it back, so that I can do it, then click on save. And here I am clicking on this, I will do it later, and then click on go. So as you scroll down, here you can see student scholarship process, the approval request has been successfully created, which is initially in the inactive stage. Now as I click on this approval process that we created, now here you can see to create this approval process, we have gone through 6 steps. As I click on this edit, here you can see first we have provided the name, then we have set the entry criteria. In that we have provided the scholarship should be greater than 0. Then only the approval process will start. After that, in the third step, if you remember, we haven't select anything, and because of we don't know who will be the approver, for that we have left it blank. Then we have the notification template where we can select the template, so that whenever the user submit the approval request, that particular email template will be sent to that approval request submitter. After that, in the fifth step, we have approval page layout where we can add the fields which approver can see, and then initial submitters. So by going through this 6th step, we have created the approval process. And as you scroll down, here you can see different things came over here. Let's talk about this one by one. So the first we have initial submission action. So basically the initial submission actions are the actions which execute immediately after the record gets submitted to the approval process. So for example, an user has been submitted a record to the approval process. So after submitting the record to the approval process, whatever the actions we want to perform, those actions we can add in the initial submission actions. For that, as you click on this add new, here you can see here we have different actions. The first one is we can assign the task, we can send the email alert, then we have field update, outbound messages, and then flow. That means after submitting the approval request, immediately the initial submission actions will perform, and whatever the action we will add over here, that action will get executed. So by default here you can see here we have an action record lock, which is immediately happen when the user submit the approval request. That means after the user submitting the request, the record will get locked. That means the user cannot edit that record which he has submitted to the approval. So here if you want to add, let me show you. Here I am clicking on add new, and then here I am selecting email alert. So here we need to provide the email alert edit. So here in the description you can provide description, unique name, and here you can see here we have email template. If you have created any email template, so for example we want to send an email to the user who has submitted the approval request. After submitting the approval request, the email should be sent to that user, and that action we can customize over here. So here I am clicking on cancel. If you want to add that action, you can add it here in the initial submission action. So by default here we only have the one action, which is record lock. Now as you scroll down, so here we have approval step. So this I will explain later on. Before this, let's understand final approval actions. So here as the name of final approval action, that means when the approver finally approve the request, whatever the action we want to perform, we can add those action in the final approval action. Initially here you can see again by default here we have record lock, where lock the record from being edited. But in this action here you can see here we have edit button. As you click on it, here we have two options. First one is lock the record from being edited, and then another one is unlock the record to editing or for editing. Now why we have this option in the final approval? Because when the approver finally approve the request, After that, the record which has been submitted for the approval, at that time that record is not for the edit. After approving the request, if the user want to edit anything in that record, then here we have two options: unlock the record for editing. So here I am selecting this one and then click on save. Again, as you scroll down, now here you can see in the description, unlock the record for editing. Now again, if you want to add actions, here you can click on this. You can add task, you can assign task to the record owner, then you can send the email, then you can update the fields if you want to update any field on the student object, then you can send the outbound messages, or you can call the flow. Now here we have final rejection action. So for the final rejection action, this time here you can see in the record lock, it is by default unlock the record for editing. Why this? Because the approver reject the record, that means in the record that submitted for the approval, is in that record something is wrong, and to correct those things we need to unlock the record for editing. For that, in the final rejection action, it's by default to unlock the record for editing. Now again, you can add the actions like email template. In that email template you can specify the your approval has been rejected or something like this. You can add the action in the final rejection action. After that, we have another option which is for the recall action. And then in the recall action, here you can see, here also we don't have the option to unlock the record for editing. That means if any user take back the approval request, and obviously for that user the record which take it back, it required to edit the record. For that, in the recall action, it's by default unlock the record for editing. So these are the 4 actions we got in the approval process. The first one is initial submission actions, after that final approval actions, then final rejection action, and then recall action. Now here you can see, here we have approval steps. If you remember, we have seen the use case. Let me show you. Where we have 2 approval stages, reception and then manager, and here we have the criteria. For the below 20,000, it should be automatically get approved. Then if the amount is more than 20,000, then it should be approved from the reception, and if the amount is more than 40,000 or 40,000, then it should be go to the reception as well as to the manager. These steps we can configure in the approval steps, or what we can say, approval stages. So to add the approval steps, here you can see new approval step, click on it. So first we need to enter name and description. So here I am providing reception faculty approval. Then the unique name will be automatically populate, and then here you can see the step number which is first. After that, we need to click on next, and now here we need to select the criteria for which record we want to send to the reception faculty for the approval. So here we don't want to send all record, because here you can see below 20,000 amount it should automatically get approved. For that, here I am selecting enter this step if the following criteria are met. In the field, here I am selecting scholarship. In the operator, here I am selecting greater than, and in the value, here I am providing 20,000. That means if the scholarship is greater than 20,000, then it will be sent to the reception faculty to the approval. Now what if the scholarship amount will be less than 20,000? Then here you can see the else part. As you click on this, here we have 2 options: approve record or reject the record. As per our use case, if the scholarship amount is less than 20,000, then it should be automatically get approved. For that, in the else part, here I have selected approve the record, and if the scholarship amount is greater than 20,000, then it will be sent to the reception faculty. For that, click on next. So in the third step, we need to select the assigned approver, to whom we want to assign the or assign as a approver. So here, let me zoom in. Here you can see, here we are automatically assigned to queue and then automatically assigned to approvers. As you click on this, here you can see, now here we have option to select user, queue or related user. Now as I click on this queue, here you will see, as I click on this lookup, here you will see the different queues that you created. So currently I didn't created any queue, for that here I am not getting any queue. So if you select any queue, then the all user who are in that particular queue, for those all users are approver. That means if any user submit the approval request, after that the users who are in the particular queue, any of them can approve or reject the record. So here I am selecting user, and then as I click on this lookup, here I will see the different users that are in the Salesforce org. So here I will select Alex Joy. That means if any user submit the approval request from the student object, this request will be sent to the Alex Joy as a reception user. Now here you can see here we have an option when multiple approvers are selected. That means if I add another row, and here if I select another user, let's say Joy Lobo. Now here we have multiple users to approve or reject the records. Now here we have two options, approve or reject based on the first response. Let's say after submitting the record to the approval, from any of them who has a response first, that means, so let's say from these approvers the Alex Joy first approve the request, then for that approval request it will be the approve, and if the Alex Joy reject the request, then it will be get rejected. That means the first response matters in the first option. After that, here you can see here we have another option. As I click on it, requires anonymous approval from all selected approvers. That means for the approval request, if the first user, that means the Alex Joy, approve the request, then Joy Lobo reject the request, that means this request will get rejected. After that, if the Alex Joy approve the request and Joy Lobo also approve the request, that means that request finally get approved. So here anonymous means if there is multiple users, for those all users should approve the request. If any one of them reject the request, that means that approval request will get rejected. So here let me remove the second row, check the first one option, and here we have one option, the approvers delegate may also approve the request. That means while creating the user we have seen that option delegated user. So that means for the Alex Joy, in the user details, if I select any delegated user or delegated approver, that means if the Alex Joy is not available to approve or reject the request, behalf of Alex Joy, the selected user or delegated user can also approve or reject the record. But if the Alex Joy is there, then the delegated user don't have permission to approve or reject the approval request. So here I am selecting this one and then click on save. Again here I am selecting, I will do it later, then click on go. Now as you scroll down, in the approval step, here you can see here we have created one approval step. After that we also have the second criteria, in which if the amount or scholarship amount is greater than 50,000, then that approval request we need to send to the manager level. For that, here I am clicking on new approval step, provide the name. So here I am providing manager approval, unique name will be automatically populate. Scroll down and here you can see here we have step number 2. Here I am clicking on next. Again scroll down. Again we need to enter this step in the following criteria are met. In the field select scholarship, in the operator greater than, in the value 20,000. That means if the scholarship amount is greater than 20,000, then that request should be get sent to the manager level. Now click on next. Now as I scroll down, so at this point here I am cancelling this second step, which is the manager approval. Now why this I cancel? Because if you remember the third step where we didn't add the manager, so let me open that step. As I click on the edit of the student scholarship process, which is approval process, and here you can see approver field. Now as I click on this approval field, here we didn't select anything while creating the approval process, because before selecting anything here, again let me cancel this one. In the approval step, here I am clicking on new approval step. Let me enter anything over here, click on next. As I scroll down, criteria are met, provide anything, click on next, and here you can see, here first we have let the submitter choose the approver manually, then automatically assigned to the queue, and then third one is automatically assigned to the approvers. That means here we can select the users, queue or related users. So after editing the third step in the approval process, let's see what will happen over here. So initially here we have three options. Again let me cancel this one, and now again here I am editing the approver field. Now here next automated approver determined by, so here I am selecting manager and then click on save. Again navigate to the approval step, click on new approval step, provide the name manager approval, unique name will be automatically populate, click on next. Again enter this step if the following criteria are met: scholarship greater than 50,000. Again click on next. Now as I scroll down, now here you can see before selecting the manager in the approval step, here we was have three options, and after selecting the manager, here you can see the second option is automatically get selected, which is automatically assigned using the user field selected earlier in the manager, which is manager. So why we selected manager over here? Because after approving the approval request from the reception faculty, then it should go to the manager. For that reason, in the approval process we have selected the next automated approver is manager. Now here you can see in the second step, here is automatically get selected the manager as a approver. Now here you can see the reject behavior. What should be happen if the approver reject this request? Here we have two options: perform all rejection action for this step and all the final rejection actions, final rejection. After that the final rejection. That means if the manager is reject the request, and in our use case the manager is the last approver, if there will be the multiple approvers, let's say above the manager there is the HR who is going to approve the any request. If manager reject request for this approval, in the first option perform all rejection action for this step, that means even manager reject this approval, the approval request will send to the HR and the above if there is any stages. Then here we have another option which is perform only the rejection action for this step and the send approval send back to the most recent approver. That means go back one step. So the second step says if the manager reject the request, then it should go to the send back to the one step, that means for the reception faculty. So here I am selecting this one and then click on save. Again here I am selecting no, I will do it later, then click on go. Now here we created two steps to approve the approval request. Now as you click on this show actions, and same for the manager approval, here also we have the approval action and then rejection actions. Before we have seen final approval action and then final rejection action. That means this one is for the final approval, and then here we also have the each step approval action and then rejection action. So for example, the amount is greater than 20,000 and the reception faculty approve the request. After that, that approval request will send to the manager level. After that, whatever the action you will be add to the approval action, that will be the get performed. And then if the reception faculty reject the approval request, at that time the whatever action you add to the rejection action, that will be get performed. Now let's understand, what if the reception faculty approve the approval request, then the approval request action will be performed, then that approval request will be sent to the manager approval, and then whatever the manager approval or manager approver take the action, according to that the approval action or rejection action will be performed. So here let me hide this one. If you want to add the actions, you can add it, but finally we have created the approval process as per our requirement. If the approval process is multi-level, then we can create the as per our requirement, but in our use case the requirement was only for the automatically approve the record which is for below 20,000 scholarship. Then above 20,000 we have the reception faculty which approve or reject the record, And then above 50,000 we have manager approval, who can approve or reject the record. So now let me navigate to the student object. Now here I am opening the Jimmy Anderson record. In the details, here I am providing the scholarship. So first I will show you below 20,000. So here I am providing 15,000 as a scholarship amount, and then click on save. Let me close this one. And here you can see the scholarship amount, which is 15,000, has been successfully saved or changed. Now I want to submit this record to the approval. Now as I click on this drop down, here you can see here we have option submit for approval. As I click on it, then provide any comment. So here I am providing, please approve my request. Then click on submit. But now here you can see no applicable approval process was found. Why this? Because we created approval process, we added the approval steps, but we didn't activated the approval process. For that, let me close this. Again navigate to the approval process that we created. And now here you can see in the active field it's didn't checked. For that we need to activate this, and to activate this, here we have activate button, click on it and then click on OK. Here you can see now the student scholarship process, which is approval process, has been successfully activated. Again let me navigate to the student record. Again click on this drop down and click on submit for approval. Again provide the comment if you want to. I am not providing any comment, and click on submit. And now here you can see student was submitted for the approval. Now as I click on this related, scroll down, and here you can see approval request. As I click on this approval request, so first here you can see approval request submitted, status submitted, assign user and actual approval user. After that, here you can see in the second stage, here we have status is approved. That means it automatically get approved. So why it happened? Because we provided the scholarship amount is below than 20,000. Let's again change the amount. So for that, let me navigate to the student record page again, click on details. Now in the scholarship amount, here I am changing from 15,000 to 30,000. Now if the amount is more than 20,000, then to whom this approval will be sent, like who will be the approver? So as per our scenario, the reception faculty should be the approver. So here as I click on save and then click on again submit for approval, click on submit and then again click on related, approval history, and here you can see approval request submitted, assigned to Alex Joy. The actual approver is Alex Joy. So by mistake it get assigned to myself. Let's navigate to the approval process. Again open the approval steps. So here I am editing the first step. Click on next. So here I am changing the approver. Here you can see by mistake I have assigned to myself. So in the user, let me remove this one, and here I am selecting Achara Kirk and then click on save. Again navigate to the student object, refresh. Again I need to create record. For that click on student, again click on Jimmy Anderson. Here I am changing the amount from 30,000 to 31,000. Click on save. So again here I am clicking on drop down, submit for approval. Click on submit. Click on related, scroll down, open the approval history, and now here you can see approval request submitted. Who submitted? Alex Joy, which is the owner of student record. Then reception faculty approval, which is the step name, and status is pending, and after that assigned to Achara Kirk, who is the approver for this approval request. Now to approve this request, first we need to log in with Achara Kirk. For that, Here I am clicking on setup. In the quick find, here I am searching for user. Click on users. Now here you can see Achar Kirk. Here I am logging with this user. You can see at the top logged in as Achar Kirk. Now here, and also here we have one notification. As I click on this notification, here you can see Alex Joy is requesting approval for student. And after that, here you can see the fields that we added in the approval page layout. As I open this, student ID, name, scholarship, email, admission done, and then owner. Now here we have options approve, reject, and reassign. So here I am clicking on approve. You can provide any comment. After that, click on approve. And you can see student approval approved. Let me log out with this user. Again, as I navigate to the student object, and before refreshing this, here you can see the status for the reception faculty approval, which is assigned to Achar Kirk. As I refresh the page, the status is approved. That means by Achar Kirk, this approval request is approved. Again, let me change the scholarship amount from 31,000 to the, so here I am providing 60,000 and then click on save. Now what do you think, when we submit this record to this submit for approval, it will directly send to the manager level, or it will be follow the hierarchy from reception faculty to the manager? So here let's check that. Here I am clicking on submit for approval. Click on submit. Now let's check the related history. As I open the related history, so first here you can see the approval request submitted, and now here you can see the approval request submitted, status is submitted, and after that this approval request is assigned to the Achar Kirk, which is status is pending. Now that means if you have multiple stages to approve the approval request, then it will respect to hierarchy. So here first we need to approve the request from the Achar Kirk. To approve or reject the request, I need to log in with this user. So again I am navigating to the users. Click on login with Achar Kirk. Again here you can see we have got notifications. As I open the notifications, the approval request is pending. Now in the information here you can see scholarship worth is 60,000. Now if I reject the request, then it will be not sent to the manager, and if I approve the request, then it will be sent to the manager for taking the manager approval. So let's approve this request from the reception level. Then click on approve. And again, even we approve the request for the scholarship which is 60,000, the student approval is still pending. Why this? Again, let's log out with this user. Navigate to the approval history, refresh the page. Here you can see for the reception faculty approval, it's still pending. Let me refresh this one. And this time here you can see the reception faculty approval get approved, but again for the manager approval it's pending. And who is the manager? Joy Lobo. Now we need to log in with the Joy Lobo. For that again navigate to the users, and here I am logging with Joy Lobo. And here you can see the Joy Lobo get notification. As I click on this, open the notification, and the Joy Lobo, which is the manager of Achar Kirk, he got the approval request which approved by the Achar Kirk, which is the reception faculty. Now as I approve the request, click on approve, and this time here you can see student approval is successfully approved. Again let me log out with this user, navigate to the approval history. Before refreshing the page, the manager approval is pending. As I refresh the page, here you can see the manager approval also status is approved. So in this way we can create approval process in Salesforce. If you want to add the more stages to the approval process, so this is the way to create approval process in Salesforce. I hope whatever I have explained you understood that. If you like the video, hit the like button, subscribe our channel and press the bell icon to get the regular updates. Thank you.